My grandfather had a farm in Rocky Point, North Carolina. He had a passion for the outdoors, a passion for hunting, and I always wanted to experience that passion and get outdoors more. My grandmother, bless her heart, she wanted me to be more domestic and be more in the kitchen. However, I was more eager to get outside. My grandfather asked me one morning if I wanted to go hunting, and I immediately responded yes. It was something that I've always wanted to do. My brother was probably not too excited because I took my grandfather away from him, and he had to go on his own while I was in the stand with my granddaddy. And I just remember that morning clearly, and a deer came out, and he was rather large for, that time and what my knowledge was at that point. And I looked up at him with my beady eyes, and I just remember I could not pull the trigger, and he knew. He had this little smirk on his face, but I wasn't ready then, but little did I know what the future held.
This season, Save the Habitat, Save the Hunt is brought to you by Mossy Oak, the official camo of the NWTF. Benelli, performance worth the price. Bass Pro, your adventure starts here. Browning, the best there is. Savage, the best idea in firearms since the Second Amendment. Mossberg, American built, American strong. Sig Sauer, world renowned. And by Weatherby, inspiring the dreams of hunters and shooters since 1945.
After those initial hunts with my grandfather, I remember that he passed away unexpectedly. It was one of those things that was very tragic in our lives. We didn't expect it, and he was the reason in person who really got me outdoors. There was a period of time where I was unable to have the opportunity to go hunting and get outdoors as much. So my grandma had moved away from the farm, and we didn't have the land and access. I was reintroduced to hunting when I met my now husband, Miles. He made the mistake of asking me if I wanted to go hunting one day, and little did he know it would be an addiction.
When Shannon and I first started dating, she knew that I was a huge outdoorsman. And the first couple of times we hunted together, I had actually taken her into one of my, I'd say a pretty good spot where I'd been seeing a lot of deer, getting a lot of trail cameras of a lot of deer. But the problem was, it was only one stand. It was a tripod stand, so we both had to sit together. She didn't have a whole lot of camo at the time. She was using my camo. The first trips of Miles and I hunting would be pretty entertaining. I did not own much camo at that time, and so thus I was wearing his extra large clothes or large clothes. You could really tell that she started to really enjoy just being there and just looking forward to, getting a chance to go every afternoon or even in the morning sometimes if I had a chance to go. But that's what I saw that very early with Shannon. The thing that gets me is the scenery. I love sunsets and sunrises, and that's, the passion. Seeing these animals out here in their element, and they don't even know that we're in their existence. I mean, it's just miraculous. I love it. I met Brad House through a buddy of mine, Patrick Murphy, and this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. So Brad called me and he said, hey, why don't you and Shannon put in for your shotgun permits for Illinois? And I said, man, that'd be great. I knew Brad had some great property. I have been on the property before, running some cameras with Brad and looking at trail cam pics, and knew if I ever had an opportunity to go hunt with Brad, it might be kind of special. And of course, this weekend that we ventured up was very special, especially when we found out that both Shannon and I drew a tag for Illinois. I have never hunted out of state
until I was given the opportunity by one of Miles's good friends, and now one of my good friends, Brad House. He extended the offer 2 miles to bring me hunting in Illinois, and I went through the roof. It's one of those opportunities, you know, you never want to turn down an opportunity. First of all, an opportunity to travel to a different place and see new things, but second of all, an opportunity to see a different breed of deer. I was thrilled.
So we got up there the first day, and it was nice to just ride around and just see the number of deer out in the fields. And I think it was really nice to see Shannon kind of get excited about seeing those deer, because she doesn't see deer like that in eastern North Carolina.
Riding around with Brad the night before our hunt was exhilarating. We were able to see the beautiful countryside that we were going to be hunting, and to see all the deer in the fields was just amazing. And first of all, you know that it's going to be a successful hunt no matter what. Even if there's not a harvest, you get to see the beauty that God's made, and to see those deer out there, it's just a rush. The plan was for John Brown and I, who was going to be running cameras, to set up in a ground blind on a power line where there were beans in the field. Brad had pulled the card the day before, and we were getting excited. There were 3 bucks using that field, and he had basically stated they were mature Illinois bucks. We got in there really early, well before daylight. It's our first morning here in Illinois with Illinois whitetail waterfowl. I'm pretty excited. Brad was showing us last night a couple shooters that he has on camera. There's one in particular that I'm looking for, so he's out there this morning. It's not too cold. I have heat warmers in pretty much every inch of my body, so we're good to go. Brad is more than welcome here. We're sitting on power line setup, soybeans and bottle. I think it's going to be a good morning. Get ready to get hungry. Love yellow. John had all the cameras set up pretty early that morning, and he had handed me his binoculars just in case I needed them. Next thing I know, I turn around and he's asleep. The ground blind's set up against the river, and we're facing the beans and the power line. And I kept hearing something to the right, and I was praying it wasn't the squirrels. We barely had enough light to see what that noise I was hearing to the right of us was. He came out, this huge buck, about 20 yards from our blind, and was headed straight towards those hot does. After I took my shot, John made me sit there for what seemed like an eternity. He wanted to make sure that we didn't run him off, but when he replayed the footage in the blind, we saw a mule kick and we were pretty confident that we had the kill. When I walked up to that buck and put my hands on him, I have never felt more of a rush. He was the biggest buck I've ever held, and the first thing I wanted to do was take a picture and send it to my husband.
It started getting a little bit light, and all of a sudden my phone vibrates, and I am looking at my phone, and Shannon says, "I got him," and I'm going, I just can't even believe it. And then John Brown texts me, and John's going, "She's killed the big one."
When we finally get him back to camp, Brad and Miles are sitting there waiting with the tape measure and pencil to score him. He scored 142.5, definitely my biggest buck. I'm not just a hunter, I'm a conservationist, and that's one thing that Miles has taught me that's important to maintaining and managing a herd, is that you have to shoot does in addition to the big bucks. And it's one thing that we have to, consider as a necessity in our hunting world. I think one main thing that I have, piece of advice that I have to offer to women who want to get more involved in the outdoors is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask to go. You never know if you're going to like it unless you go. And it's one of those things that, it's an opportunity to get outside, an opportunity to get outdoors, and to be involved. See what your husband likes, see what your boyfriend likes, or your father. See their passion. You know that they like it for a reason, and you might like it too.
When Shannon and I first started going, and she would hear the gobbles, she was completely sold on turkey hunting. And this was even before she had had a chance to see a bird yet, but I knew, I could see it in her eyes early, that she had a passion for it and she wanted to go. The Pirate Classic is extremely special to me. It was an idea that I took to the local chapter of the NWTF and felt like it was something that we could get the community together, get a lot of the landowners, the farmers, everybody in the area to donate their property, so they can have these kids get on there for youth season. And I didn't know how big we could make this thing. I think for me, it's being able to get these kids kind of away from the norm. And I think the norm today is everything with the social media, and they've got their phones all the time, they're glued to their phones. It gives them a chance to get outside and enjoy what God has created. And turkey hunting in the spring, there's nothing better. It's one of my passions, and I'm just really excited to be able to get these kids out there. This last year's event actually won one of the best youth events in the country, and we were so excited to be a part of that. Not only myself and John, but really just the NWTF, and I would say that for everybody that helped in that event. And I would even go as far as everybody from the mentors and the guides and the farmers, and that award was really, you know, for everyone, and really just for the kids. But we're excited to expand the event. We already have a lot of people talking about the event, you know, for 19, and we're just really excited to be able to bring that event every year, and especially right here on the farm, which is special for me.
And one thing we wanted to talk about was getting kids in the outdoors. I think the #1 lesson I've learned over the years, first of all, let me start by saying I love to hunt turkeys. More importantly, I like to see a turkey flop. And I realize that sometimes when you're hunting with kids, however, that these kids just want to be out somewhere having fun. Whether you take them to the carnival, whether you give them your iPhone and let them play, you know, Angry Birds. So when it gets down to it, I think the #1 tip I had to teach myself is to realize, first of all, #1 rule is have fun. Relax, cut up, get them kids laughing, make them feel like a big man or you know, a big young lady there when they out there hanging with them. And it's kind of cool because even though they're kids, you can kind of make them feel like an adult and laugh and cut up. And so what you'll find is when they finally do get a chance to shoot at a turkey, whether they miss or they find success, at the end of it, they've had fun. And anytime you have fun at something, you're gonna want to do it again. If you didn't have any fun at it, then you're probably not gonna want to do it again. So I say the #1 thing is gear it down a little bit, realize you're hunting with kids, realize that they want to have fun. There's a lot of things out there in the world they can have fun at. If you can get them hooked in being outdoors and having fun at it, I promise you they'll want to do it again with or without you. So that's what I've learned hunting with kids. So gear it down, not be so serious, and let them have a good time.